Hello and welcome to today's online class for class 2. In our last class we talked about the effect of pressure on the solubility of gas into the liquid. This concept was studied by Henry and was given in the form of Henry's law. It stated that the pressure of a gas dissolving in a certain amount of liquid is directly proportional with the solubility of that gas at a particular temperature. The mathematical expression was expressed in the form of this equation: P equals to kH, where kH was my Henry's constant. Now there are few characteristics of this kH, Henry's constant, that we are going to study now. The first characteristic of kH constant is it depends on the gas and the solvent taken. Supposedly I have taken two different kind of gas, let's say nitrogen and oxygen, and I am dissolving it in water. In both the cases, the kH value will be different. When nitrogen is dissolving in water, the kH for that dissolution process, and when oxygen is dissolving in water, kH for that dissolution process will be different from one another. Similar goes for when nitrogen I am dissolving in water, the kH for that dissolution process will going to be different than when nitrogen I am dissolving in any other kind of solvent except water. Second characteristic of Henry's constant can be derived from this parent equation. This equation can be written like X equals to P by KH. KH is in my denominator term. So when KH increases, this entire fraction decreases, decreasing this X value. This X value is nothing but my amount of gas that has been dissolved into the into the liquid. Now, if a gas having higher KH as it is in the denominator, so it will produce lower X value, lower solubility. When a gas have lower KH, it will produce higher X value, higher solubility if both the gases having same kind of partial pressure. The third point is the temperature. If a gas is dissolved in a certain amount of liquid, the pH for that dissolution process depends on the temperature. If the temperature of this process is increased, the kH value for that particular process will also be increased. There are certain conditions on which Henry's law is valid. These are: first one is dilute solution. It says that gases which dissolve in a liquid in a lesser extent to produce a dilute solution, only those kind of solution we can apply Henry's law. There are others also, like if a gas on dissolution associates or dissociate or do a chemical reaction, for those kind of dissolution process Henry's law is not valid. On the other hand, if a gas do not behave ideally, then we cannot apply Henry's law for those kind of dissolution also, meaning when the pressure is too high or the temperature is too low, meaning when the gas is behaving as a real gas, at those particular time we cannot apply Henry's law. Now let's try to do some mathematical problems. This problem is saying at 298 Kelvin, pH for nitrogen N2 is 8.610⁻⁴ atm in water. The mole fraction of nitrogen in air is 0.8. How many moles of nitrogen gas would dissolve in 10 ml of water at 298 Kelvin and 5 atm pressure? Now I already have my mole fraction of nitrogen in air, which is N of N2 in air 0.8, and I also have the atmospheric pressure, which is 5 atm. So very easily I can find out the partial pressure of nitrogen. For atm, I already have Henry's constant for this dissolution process. So through Henry's equation, I can find out the mole fraction of nitrogen in this solution. Now this is different than the previous mole fraction that is being given into the equation. This mole fraction that has been given into the question is the mole fraction of nitrogen in air. We have to find out through Henry's equation the mole fraction of nitrogen into the solution. This is almost, will produce 0.45 into 10 to the power 4. You can adjust this value to 4.5 into 10 to the power minus 5. ATM and ATM will cancel each other out, producing a unitless quantity, as mole fraction is unitless quantity also. Now, but we have to find out the mole number of nitrogen instead of mole fraction of nitrogen into the solution. There is another value that has been given, is the amount of water that has been taken. Amount of water is 10 ml, and as we know that for water 1 ml of water represents 1 mole of water. That's what 10 ml of water represents here also 10 mole of water. Now we already know about the expression mole fraction, about the mole fraction expression. By putting that expression, we can find out the mole number of nitrogen also. Let's take N as the mole number of nitrogen. Then the mole fraction can be represented as mole number of nitrogen by mole number of nitrogen plus mole number of water. That is 10 equals to mole fraction of nitrogen in solution. This magnitude 4.5 into 10 to the power minus 4 is very much small compared to this 1. That's why 1 minus this is almost equals to 1. That's why you can say N almost equals to 4.5 into 10 to the power 4 mole. This is my mole number for nitrogen that has been dissolved into the solution. The next concept that we will talk about is vapor. Now, when a substance at normal condition exists as a liquid or solid, then you transform that substance into a gaseous state. That state is simply called as or known as vapor state. Now, vapor and gas both are having similar characteristic, few differences. So, similar characteristic of both of them are in both of them intermolecular forces of attraction are very weak. Obviously, the molecules are in random ceaseless motion in both the vapor and gaseous state. The main difference is that the gaseous state is the state at which a substance in normal condition exists. A substance in a normal atmospheric condition will exist in a gaseous state, that is its natural state. But a substance when its natural state is either liquid or solid, but then transform that substance into its gaseous state, then that state is known as the vapor state. So obviously in vapor state, for any substance in vapor state, it contains comparatively more amount of energy compared to a gaseous state for a normal substance. For that particular reason, two transformative terms has been appeared, which is the vaporization and condensation. Vaporization or evaporation is nothing but the transformation process to vapor state from a solid or liquid state. Condensation is the opposite state to the vaporization process. Let's take example of a liquid confined in a closed container. When the liquid is introduced into the closed container, at that particular point of time, the evaporation starts, and the vapor molecule the liquid molecule starts to occupy the empty space above the liquid surface. Now the above vapor molecule that has gone in the empty space above the liquid surface starts their ceaseless random motion and start to collide with each other and with the wall of the container and also on the surface of the liquid. Now among all the vapor molecules, those molecules which are having lesser amount of kinetic energy cannot overcome the attraction force from the liquid surface and starts to deposit again into the liquid. This time condensation process starts. Now obviously at the beginning, as the number of vapor molecules above the liquid surface in the empty space is far less, the rate of vaporization is much more compared to the rate of condensation. But with time, as the amount of vapor molecule increases in the empty space above the liquid surface, the rate of vaporization start to decrease and the rate of condensation start to increase. Comes a point when the rate of vaporization and the rate of vaporization and the rate of condensation becomes equal to one another. At that particular point, you can see that the liquid has reached its saturation point. When the liquid is introduced into the confined container, the vaporization process starts only then. So my vapor molecule starts to accumulate from the very starting point, and the vapor molecules start to exert pressure on the wall of the container. But when the vapor accumulated in the empty space on the liquid surface is in equilibrium with the liquid, that is when the rate of vaporization and rate of condensation is equal at that particular time, the amount of vapor that has been accumulated above the liquid surface, that amount of vapor is termed as saturated vapor. So the definition, you can say the vapor in equilibrium with its liquid is known as the saturated vapor, and the pressure exerted by that amount of saturated vapor we will consider only that as the vapor pressure. There are only two factors that affects the vapor pressure of a liquid. The first one is the nature of the liquid. Vapor pressure of any liquid is actually inversely proportional with the intermolecular force of attraction between the molecules of the liquid. That means if molecules of liquid have a higher amount, stronger intermolecular force of attraction, they are less tend to leave the molecule to pass on to its vapor state. That's why those kind of molecule possess low vapor pressure. Contrary to those kind of molecule which contains those kind of liquids in which intermolecular force of attraction is weaker, they are more tend to leave the liquid state to pass on to their vapor state, and for them the vapor pressure is very high. The second factor that actually affects the vapor pressure is the temperature. Now when temperature increases, kinetic energy increases, which in turn increase the number of molecules with having a higher amount of kinetic energy. That's why molecule when have higher amount of kinetic energy are able to leave the attraction force of the liquid state and pass on to its vapor state more easily. Which is why with the increase in temperature, vapor pressure of a particular liquid